welcome back. Now, according to those in the know, 2009 is expected to produce outstanding French wines. Favourable weather conditions, we're talking about a cold winter and a blistering summer, have helped produce a bumper crop and some pretty good grapes. But does a good vintage translate into a good investment? Well, my colleague Louisa Boyson has the wine market uncorked.
The amount of flavours and dimension you can get from a really good wine is simply fascinating.
It tastes wonderful. It's so much more nuanced and interesting and long-living as a drink than anything else we consume.
Wine has always been an important part of a rich man's portfolio.
It's a substance that invokes a lot of passion, not to mention flowery language. But what about the words credible investment or a valid asset class? Do these terms hold true when talking about wine?
I suppose once fine wine started to be worth really quite a significant amount of money, and when wine became such a fashionable hobby, prices went up dramatically.
Clearly, I mean, transparency has made an enormous difference to the marketplace over the last 10 years.
Investors saw wine as an attractive investment, especially because it appeared to trade quite independently from mainstream financial markets. But as wine prices plummeted alongside equities in 2008, that theory was smashed. But the longer-term trends for wine investment are compelling.
It has produced consistently good returns over a 20-year period, 12.6% compound, which is actually far and away in excess of the mainstream assets.
Ways to gain exposure vary. Through LiveX, the wine market's most prominent exchange.
7,500 on my left now.
Bidding at auction also gives you access to physical bottles of wine.
Well, auctions tend to have things that you can't get in every store. It has great wines, it has great vintages. We are also very, very careful and passionate about provenance and conditions, and I think quite a lot of people like the excitement of it as well.
So once you've got the wine, correct storage, of course, is crucial because you don't want to see its value go down the drain. Below the Wiltshire bottomlands is Octavian Vaults, an old rock mine 100 feet below ground. More than 500,000 cases of investment-grade wine are stored in exactly the right conditions.
If wine's allowed to get much hotter than about much more than 70 degrees Fahrenheit, that complex bouquet that you're keeping the wine in bottle to develop just dissipates.
One way to avoid the pitfalls of physically owning bottles is to invest in a fund.
Clearly, the advantages of buying through a fund is that you're doing it with a professional. There's a high level of assurance that they're going to be buying at the right price, and you're buying into economies of scale.
But beware of the risks.
There are so many people who are relatively new to wine, who are going around setting themselves up as experts on investment in wine, and are spreading the complete myth that all fine wine is a safe investment. It's not.
So who is buying?
The whole loosening up of Hong Kong and abolishing wine duty has made a huge difference to the international fine wine market.
And what is selling?
Chateau Lafite, Chateau Petrus, and I would also say that Cheval Blanc.
So it would appear that the fine wine market is a battle of passion versus profits. Well, there's a solution. Buy two. One for investment and one for enjoyment.
I'd say I like Louisa's thinking on that one. If you're going to get involved in this story, you might as well really enjoy it. Well, let's talk about what you should be doing if you're interested in this as a space to put your money. Stacey Lee Golding joins us. She's the investments director and co-founder of Premier Crew. We were just hearing there that there is there's a lot of stuff talked about the wine market that doesn't necessarily come to be true. How good an investment really is this? How has it performed? And what are the real pitfalls in your mind that people need to avoid?
Okay, the investment itself spans hundreds of years historically, but as a structured investment, Premier Crew Fine Wines were the first structured wine investment company that specialised purely at looking at wine as an asset class rather than a beverage. the main pitfalls that people go down is, as was actually said in the report, the myth that all fine wine is worth investing in. Wine has to have certain attributes. It needs to be a high quality, limited supply, recognised vintage, recognised chateau. And one chateau may make a glorious wine in one vintage and less than average wine in another vintage. So it's the expertise. Like any market, you've really, really got to know what you're doing, which is where companies like ours come into play. What we look to do is to bring this passion investment to average people who are just looking for a return in something tangible, something safe. You know, you never have a fine wine worth nothing. So it's contrary to popular, misconception, it's actually quite a low-risk investment, and it isn't generally correlated to most other markets. It was affected by the fall. It couldn't escape it. No market really escaped it. But it was, as tradition has always shown us, it was the last to fall and one of the first to recover.
I mean, as Guy will know, one of the markets that I find most mystifying is that of gold. But at the very least, I can say if you put a gold bar in front of us, we test its composition and we can all agree that it's a bar of gold. There's such a subjectivity into a fine wine, and so it seems to me, one versus the other, that I would be nervous about flavors changing, tastes changing, attitudes changing, and therefore the value of my investment changing along with it in ways that I simply couldn't control.
That's why it's so important not to do it off your own back. There is an element of taste changing, but it's more to do with age and maturity of your palate. If you don't drink and you just opened a £300 bottle of wine, not only would you not appreciate it, the likelihood is you actually wouldn't like it. Yeah. And you need to educate your palate. But once you've gone down that road, and it does take a lot of passion to get that far, you need wine tasting courses, and you read about it, and you do lots of personal research, and when you get that taste for it, it's quite hard to come backwards again. People don't give up passions, they give up hobbies, and that's one of the bases of the market.
See, I don't care what it tastes like, I don't care what happens with the wine. This is, to my mind, an emerging market play. If you talk to Diageo, their biggest sales are out in the emerging markets. Yes. You've got a whole consumer class that has never drunk wine before and is getting rich quick, and they're going to go for the bigger names, they're going to go for names that they're going to trust. It doesn't seem that hard to get from A to B in this story.
It's not. It's not necessarily about getting in, it's knowing about when to get out.
Right.
And we, at Premier Cru, we offer a full top-to-tail service, so depending on the brief from the investor, we choose it, we store it, we manage it, and then we sell it at the end. And we offer the same structure as standard investments: high, medium, low risk, short, medium, long term. It's structured in a very familiar way. It's just using an unfamiliar asset class for lots of new investors. And actually what we've seen a massive change in trend of attitude. When we started 15 years ago, there was a constant battle against the skeptics. We literally were at places where financial advisors would laugh, whereas now we are being approached on a regular basis by those within the financial services industry and the direct investors themselves. People want to invest in tangible things that they can trace a history of, and not only just the new investment into wine, but we have seen within Premier Cru that the reinvestment from existing clients, especially through the fall, has gone up astronomically over the last 6 months.
Well, something we all got to look into. I prefer to taste it, but whatever.
Well, there's a massive influence in Asia. You can't get away from the market out there.
Sure. Got to wrap it up there. Stacey, thank you very much indeed. Stacey Golding joining us from Premier Cru. Sana, we haven't heard from you for the last 5 minutes. We've got to wrap it up there as well. Thanks for spending the last hour with us. Sana Horsfield joining us from Barclays Wealth.